What's up guys, it's your favorite Kiwi coach, and give me 6 months of your time, I'll give you the best golf swing of your life. So welcome back to the channel. In this particular video, we're going to be doing another client before and after video, and this is going to be a professional golfer, Shohei Hasegawa. I hope you guys are going to enjoy, and let's go do this thing. But before we get into the video, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, and that is Kiwi Golf Japan. If you're too busy or you just can't make it out to our locations for lessons, then Kiwi Golf Japan is the membership site for you. With over 170 plus videos of golf instruction, we got everything on the site that you could possibly want. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check out the link down below. And now let's get into the video. So like I said in the intro, this particular video is going to be another before and after with Shohei Hasegawa. This will be a really interesting one because typically Shohei likes to hit a fade. However, recently we've been trying to work a little bit more into a draw model just because it's kind of been naturally what he's been hitting of recent. So we're going to stop trying to fight the draw and actually try to hit the draw. So if you're interested in that and you want to know some checkpoints on how to hit a draw with an iron, this will be the perfect video for you. Let's go ahead and play the before swing of Shohei, and then we're going to go play the after swing, and then we'll talk about what we're going to be discussing in this particular video. So this is going to be the before swing. All right, and this is going to be the after swing. So in this particular video, we're going to be breaking down some checkpoints for the draw. However, before he was also playing a draw, but he was really struggling with an overdraw and then some pushes out to the right. So the main point and the main reason because of that was going to be his P6 position. The club head was getting pretty far behind the hands and he was getting underneath the plane. Now the reason why he was getting underneath the plane, in my personal opinion, had a lot to do with the way he was moving his hand path in the backswing, in the before swing, as well as the club shaft in the backswing. I think that was really setting him up to get underneath the plane in the downswing. So we're going to start off with talking about P2, work our way through most of the backswing, and then we'll show you some of the downswing as well. All right, so starting off at position 2 in the before swing, we were finding that the club head was getting underneath the hands and it was getting really flat really early on the backswing. So if you take a look at the after swing, one of the big key points that we're trying to get was feeling steeper with the club head at position 2 or a little bit more outside the hands. And then throughout most of the backswing until position 3, we're also trying to feel steeper with this club shaft. So let's go highlight P2.5 because this is another crucial position that we try to change. So moving into P2.5, as we can tell, because P2 was so far underneath the plane, we're seeing that P2.5 is also underneath the plane as well. If we go take a look at the after swing, we can now see that the club shaft is on the forearm at this particular point in the golf swing as opposed to below the forearm. Now the reason why I think this is so important is if you're going to be below the forearm at position 2.5, that means eventually the club shaft will have to start to steepen somewhere either on the backswing or the downswing. Because if you come back down in the same position, you're going to be very far underneath the plane, right? So if you want to try to get into a better position, that club shaft will try to steepen somewhere throughout the backswing or downswing. And for Shohei, it was actually starting to steepen in the backswing, which was going to get him crossed at the top, which we'll talk about here in a second. So getting him into a better P2.5 now allowed him to, from this position, feel like he was going to flatten to the top of the swing as opposed to steepen to the top of the swing, which is a big key point of the overall lesson. So as we get into position 3, I want to go take a look at the club shaft and you're going to see kind of what I mean. So as he's starting to work to position 3, you can already see how this club shaft is now starting to steepen. Notice how these two lines are going to be intersecting, right? That means that the club shaft is going to be steepening at this point. And then as we get to position 3, you can note that it's continually steepened all the way to position 3, which means eventually, if he wants to get to the correct top of swing position, he'll have to stop that steepening, right? So what he's added there is he's added a variable, which we talked about in other before and afters. We don't want to be adding too many variables into the golf swing. Now, if we go take a look at the after swing, as he starts to approach P3, now we can see that the club shaft is pretty much just staying at its original position that it was at position 2.5. So he didn't really have to flatten or steepen to get to the position 3, which is really what we want to do, right? We want to make it a little bit more of a simpler motion for him. And that's exactly what we were able to do once we got the takeaway in P2.5 into the correct position. Now, as we start to approach the top of the swing, we're going to find in the before swing, he's going to continue to steepen that club shaft, and it's going to continue to move towards the head as he gets to the top of the swing here. And this is going to be the big issue, in my opinion, and why he's getting underneath the plate on the downswing. Because from this position, because when he's crossed, he can't swing down naturally without flattening because he's going to come down really steep and he's going to swipe across the ball. So typically, most people are going to do is they're going to flatten the club shaft. The issue with flattening the club shaft on the downswing is now you have to flatten, you have to stop the flattening so it doesn't get too far underneath the plane, and then you have to move that club head out towards the golf ball, right? So you've added another variable to the swing. So he already has an extra variable in the back backswing, and he has an extra variable on the downswing, and he's got to manage it at a high speed because he swings really fast, so it was really difficult for him to manage, hence he was getting the two-way miss, right? Block to the right and then overdraw to the left. Now if you go take a look at the after swing here, as he starts to approach the top of the swing, now we're seeing more of the same idea that we saw from P2.5 to P3. The club shaft is pretty much just going up and not steepening or flattening, right? It's a very, very manageable club shaft movement from P3 to P4. And this has just very much simplified the swing. Already got him into the correct P4, which then in turn, if you're in the correct P4, you don't really need to flatten all the way to position 5. You can literally just kind of lower the club and not have to manipulate the club shaft. And from there, when we're not manipulating the club shaft, we're not changing the face angle, and hence it's going to become a whole lot easier to get into a more consistent hitting area every single time. All right, so let's talk downswing a little bit now. So in the before swing, this is going to be that flattening move that I was talking about, or that shallowing move a lot of you guys like to talk about. So as you can see, the two lines right here are intersecting, right? So the club shaft is flattening, and then as he gets to position 5 right here, the club shaft is flattened a little bit more, and then from this position, this is where we're going to see him get really far underneath the plane, as you can kind of see right here, right? The club head's way behind his body at this particular point in the golf swing. All right, so that's it for you guys on YouTube. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Stay with me for a second so I can wrap up the video. So first and foremost, one of the most important points here is, if you're struggling with underneath the plane, you need to understand the idea of variables in the golf swing. In Shohei's before swing, because he was so flat in the takeaway, he had to now steepen the club shaft to get into the correct point. But because he's having to steepen now, it's difficult to stop that steepening, so hence he got crossed. And then the same thing on the downswing. Because he's crossed, he now has to flatten, and because he has to flatten, it's now difficult to stop that and then move the club head out towards the ball in the downswing, so he was getting underneath the plane. So you want to have less variables in the golf swing. You're always going to have variables in the golf swing, mind you, right? That's okay to have them. You just want to have less of them. And then the main point here is stay away from large range of motion variables. Now Shohei's swing wasn't so crazy, right? He's a pro golfer. He wasn't so far out of position compared to a lot of the amateurs that we see in lessons, but for a pro golfer, he definitely was still quite a bit away from the positions that we'd want, and that's why he's currently kind of struggling with his swing. So being able to make sure that you're using those domino effect correctly, get into more of a tighter positions, you're going to have less range of motion variables, and you're going to have a great time playing golf. So if you guys are struggling with this and you guys want a professional's help, well, make sure, give me 6 months of your time and I'll give you the best golf swing in your life. Check out our Kiwi Coach 6-month program. I think you guys would be a perfect fit for us. Also, make sure to sign up for the membership, and it really supports this channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.